Hey, it's Adam here, and you're watching The Culture Hack, where we're talking about how to create engaged workspaces that unlock the potential of your teams and drive your business forward in ways you've never seen. So stay tuned. Hello, and welcome to The Culture Hack. Today is going to be a great day. I have Peter Cheesbrough on with me. He's the founder of Headstock 360, and him and I have had lots of fun talking about this type of stuff. So welcome, Peter. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
And first and foremost, of course, before we get into it, tell us a little bit about Headstock 360.
So Headstock 360 is an executive coaching firm. So we essentially specialize in helping individuals and teams liberate more potential, possibility, and results in their work and life. So very specialized around coaching and team development. A lot of similar firms, have big suites of training and different things like that. But we stay pretty specialized in terms of the kind of executive coaching and team development space.
Okay, amazing. So you probably have stories upon stories of this world in terms
Absolutely.
of people you've coached and all that kind of stuff. Okay, all right.
Damn confidentiality, though.
It's okay. Names have been changed and some details have been altered, but, right? But first off, you've been in this game a while. You've coached a lot of people that have become very successful. When you talk about engagement and growing a team, business, organization, non-for-profit, whatever it is you're talking about, what does engagement mean to you when we say that?
It's funny. I find engagement, like there's a lot of words out there that have baggage, for a lot of people. And I find, even, culture, purpose, engagement, I always find that when terms have been around for a long time, there can be a tendency that they get diluted a little bit, and we all put our own kind of individual spin on it. So I think, in essence, from a shallow sense, engagement, revolves around, the level of somebody's involvement and enthusiasm. But I think for me, what we've found, true engagement really relates to meaning. So I think a lot of organizations, what I'm seeing, a lot of organizations and executive leaders, misconstrue the word engagement and blend it into, happiness and comfort, things like that, where interestingly, some of the most engaged organizations or teams or individuals that I've worked with have been through hell. They've been through something really difficult, and you ask them, when were you most engaged in their career? And they'll tell you that kind of hellish experience. So, not to completely rip off Viktor Frankl, I think there's a real depth of wisdom there that the meaning that somebody experiences in a given moment really drives engagement, which can be good, bad, and ugly, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very akin to me with leadership. I think a lot of us, focus on making people comfortable and, making people happy in leadership, which is absolutely a core component. But we tend to forget that when people are growing, when organizations are growing, when you're doing great things, discomfort is usually a key component to that ingredient. So I always think of the word meaning and commitment, right? When I think of the things that I'm most engaged with currently in my life or have been most engaged around, a lot of them are really hard. And, there's elements of happiness there, but it's like life in general. It's a big bag of nuts.
I love that. I love that idea of when people say, when was I most engaged? It was at the hard times, right? It wasn't necessarily when everything was sunshine and roses, but I think the critical piece there is you're not alone when you're doing it. We're connected, we're together, we've got a mission and purpose, and whether the company has done it on purpose or not, we've come together to accomplish this task, whether it's for a specific project or whatever.
Absolutely.
But not always easy. And your clients come to you because they're having specific problems and obstacles and that type of thing. Are there any stories you want to share, or specific trends or things that businesses are struggling with, executive leaders are struggling with out there?
I think for me, like the biggest thing that comes to mind is, what makes, teams or organizations truly successful. And it's that irritating thing that, the recipe isn't overly complex, it's just hard to pull off, right? I love to cook, and I'm not a big fan of baking, because baking is very simple, but you've got to, pull it off in a very clean way. And I find, the teams and the organizations that are really performing at their peak have peak levels of trust, truth, and accountability. Those are, from our experience, the elements of a team or the elements of an organization that, really makes outcomes and results successful. The unfortunate part is building trust, having, whether it's radical candor or just the ability to truly be open and share the truth with your teammates, and to hold one another truly accountable towards your shared vision is a difficult thing. So I often find it interesting how quickly we allow ourselves to call a group a team. And in my experience and a lot of my organization's experience, a lot of the teams out there are just individual agendas sitting at the same table. And when magic happens is when, those groups really unite towards a shared vision, which takes building those three core components: trust, truth, and accountability. And of course, it's a ladder, right? You need trust in order to open the door to be really truthful, right? And I have a psychologist friend that said intimacy can be broken down to into me you see. And when she told me that, I thought, holy crap, I always defined intimacy in my mind as, spooning with your spouse or something like that. But true intimacy is really allowing other people to see what's inside of you, right? What drives you, what's important to you. And if you can create a level of trust on your team where that's possible, the accountability piece comes much, much easier. But I think that's what I see that a lot of teams are struggling with, and absolutely on the the executive leadership front is, how do you steward a group of individuals towards that cohesion, which doesn't come easy. You have to work to get to that level of dynamics.
Right. I love the idea that it takes energy. You have to put energy in, right? to create it. And I always liked the notion of teams versus groups or working groups, where if it's a team, I win, you win, we win, right? Your success is my success, your failure is my failure, and we're all kind of in it together. Whereas a working group is, we've come together to kind of coordinate, but we have separate agendas. An example being a president and their board of vice presidents, right? When they're all in charge of their different fiefdoms, they're not really working together. If you fail, it's better for me because I look better, right? So it's tricky the way I feel like we've set up these systems to drive the wrong behaviors and the metrics and the financials and all that kind of thing, right? So
I really resonate with that, right? It's like the ultimately non-socially responsible word or phrase is, that's not my job. And you hear that all the time, with executive teams or boards. And I think the irony is there's almost, when you learn how to really build a culture of a team that's exceptional, it almost, for a lot of people, feels embarrassing to engineer or to design something like that. I think a lot of us just hope that, it's like falling in love, that it's just going to happen naturally, that we're going to come together and we're going to all fall into agreement or into alignment, and everything's just going to be rosy. And I think that was a big learning for me in my career, and a key component to how we, help organizations and help teams, is not to be embarrassed that, you should be really intentional with this stuff and talking about, how you define your alliance and how you really engineer, the rapport, the trust, the way that your team works, and the best sports teams do that as well.
Mm-hmm. And more and more we're seeing leaders, business owners start to talk about this type of thing. So what are you seeing for the future? Are the people that you're coaching, are they, is engagement becoming part of their strategy? Are they putting plans together for the years to come? Are they thinking about, remote workforces and all the new tech that's coming out, AI, things like that? Like, what do you see on how they're prioritizing this stuff for the future?
I see, my experience is like a deep sense of, the world and, organizations being quite rattled. And, I often think of the arc of the study of intelligence, right? That up until, probably the late 70s, everything was focused around IQ and hard intelligence. And then they started to realize, why are some people wildly successful that might not have the highest IQ? And they realized, oh, there's this other thing of emotional intelligence that, it's not just what it's, how you do things, that is really instrumental to your results. And what I'm seeing now, and especially when you think of what we navigated through with the pandemic, but just the business climate in general, is there's almost this burgeoning new form of intelligence called AQ, right, which is your adaptability quotient. And so, that easy to understand, again, tough to put into practice, right? So some of those really personal skills of, things like flexibility and resilience, how quickly you can surrender or let go of, something that's bothering you in order to grab on and move forward. So I think what I'm seeing is the big need for flexibility and adaptability. And if you're not able to have that competency on your team or personally or in your organization, you're just going to get left behind, standing behind a wall, because there's walls popping up everywhere.
It's amazing when we talk about, the scale of an organization, whether it's 2 people or 100 people or 1,000 people or whatever.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it would always circle back to, the journey within starts first. And if you can work on that, then the rest, the outside tends to reflect the inside, which
yes,
very, very interesting burden as the leader or the founder that you have to carry.
Begin within, right? And there's a big tie to coaching as well, that I think, shallow coaching focuses on the what people want to accomplish, what outcomes you want. A little bit more depth is the what and the how, which is the how are we going to navigate there, the strategies, the tools. But really, the organizations, or I know for personal transformation, focusing at the who level. It's like, who do you need to become, in order to be successful in the future, or in order to, set up that what or that how. So I think it's interesting that how much focus has been external in the past, and a lot of it is this return home to internal, right? Is to being really thoughtful with who you are, as a person, as a leader, as a team leader, as an organization, even, as an industry or a citizen of the world. And if you can get really clear on that and behave with integrity and alignment, magic happens. The what and the how tend to just be symptoms of a really confirmed who.
I love that. The magic happens. Well, that is fantastic. I love the begin within. If that's not a great spot to end on, I don't know what is.
I love it.
Right? Well, thanks so much, Peter. I really appreciate your insights and your wisdom, and it's been great chatting with you.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Hey, thanks for watching The Culture Hack. Do you want to chat culture and engagement? Give us a call and come on the show.